This is Tommy Brothers. He's a guitarist, vocalist, and audio engineer from Wilmington, North Carolina. And he's also my dad. Throughout his 20 plus years in the music industry, he's worked with artists such as Macy Gray, Big Boy, and Andre 3000. I interviewed Tommy about his role in the music industry and how his experience led him to where he is today. This is
Audio Engineering.
1, 2, 3, 4. Standing here like a loaded gun, waiting to go off. I've got nothing to do but shoot my mouth off. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Give me some more. Gimme, gimme, gimme.
So, at what moment did you decide that this was the career for you?
I think I was about 19, and I had some recording gear set up in a laundry room. I had an old console in there and an ADAT, and I was doing the recordings for my band at the time. Jim Wilson's son was in high school at the time, and he brought his band in there, and I recorded them, and I realized that I not only enjoyed recording my own stuff, I enjoy recording other people's music too. And it also really, there was kind of an ulterior motive. If I got people to pay me to record, I could afford to pay for more gear.
So how often were you recording yourself versus like other clients?
Well, at first I was doing everything was my own.
Mm-hmm.
When I went on the road with your mom's band, we were building a studio here in Wilmington. And when I came home, basically I started taking clients because Dad already got it going because he was running sound over at a place called Bessie's, and he was talking bands into coming in. So as soon as I got home, there were already bands that wanted to get started, and I just kind of threw myself into it. I did, honestly, I was doing some of my own recording, but it was probably more, at that point, the percentage went more towards working with other bands. That first thing was just kind of I guess you call a bedroom studio kind of setup.
Mm-hmm.
The first professional studio was that little blue house. We turned one of the rooms into a control room, and then we made the main living room was the live room for the band to set up in. And we had one other room that we made for like recording guitars and stuff. We put cabinets in it. So what we did was we took all the money that we made that first 2 years, and we used that money to pour the foundation for the big studio. I worked construction doing interior carpentry during the day, and I would come and work there at night. We literally built that big studio from the foundation, and I've actually got old photos of the process of building it.
That's incredible.
And, I worked out of there for 13 years, so it was definitely worth it. Learned a lot.
Yeah. Do you think that would be feasible today if you had to build a studio from the ground up? Like, how do you think that would work?
Back then, recording at home wasn't as easy as it is today. If you wanted that higher level of recording, you kind of had to go to somebody else. Now people are doing a lot of stuff at home. Things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of the big studios have closed because whole albums are done in a bedroom.
Yeah.
There's still some of those studios, but and it's always possible, but usually you see it with people that are already maybe successful in a different career, and then they go buy a bunch of this real nice stuff and build a studio for fun.
Yeah. So how do you think that shift to being able to record in a bedroom has affected your work?
I think it kind of changed what I had to do. I was doing a lot of bands at first, a lot of metal bands,
Mm-hmm.
which was cool and everything, but those guys would do records, and they would have the budget to pay for it by playing shows, and they'd sell CDs. When there's no CDs anymore to sell, and there's not a lot of shows. So these days, it seems like most of what I do is the singer-songwriter thing. It's nice, but like I don't do a lot of the drum sessions. I used to do drums a lot. I just had to figure out a way to do this where like this place doesn't cost me a lot in rent. It's like $350 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Because the rent isn't that bad, I'm able to make it work.
What does a typical workday look like
if I'm doing a band, usually I'll come in and an hour to hour and a half before the band gets here and start getting all the mics together, the mic cables, headphones, the monitor boxes for the headphones, making sure I got everything I need for the amount of players. You know, if they're going to be using some amps, I'll get those together. You know, make sure the drums, you know, some drummers bring their own stuff, some of them don't. So if they're using my kit and they're using my cymbals and everything, I make sure everything's there. Usually I'll wait on miking it until the drummer sets his drums up, because you
don't know where he's gonna want
yeah,
it.
yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
But as long as everything's there and ready, and I don't have to go searching for it, I'm good. And then I'll come in here and I'll get on the Pro Tools and I'll set up the amount of tracks I'm going to need. So everything's, you know, once I have it all hooked up, he can start tapping the drums and I can. So the drum, really getting the drums is the most time consuming thing. And then you got to, you know, get the bass player, guitar player, singer set up, all that stuff.
So it seems like there's a lot of work that you have to do before the clients even get here.
Yeah, if you could do that before, then they're not sitting around waiting as long. If you do it per song, then they're going to be paying a certain amount anyway.
Like a set fee.
But if you're working by the hour, you definitely want them to know, you know, this is a lot of work to make this happen.
Yeah,
so
exactly. As like an audio engineer, do you have to do a lot of writing?
Well, you know, the biggest thing with when you do something like this on your own is you have to handle all the phone calls to people and all the logistical stuff with them about what's here, what they need to bring.
And like scheduling.
Yeah, the scheduling, letting them know, because this place can be kind of a pain to find. All that stuff is good before they come. And that you have all the instruments here. If they can't bring something, you have something that'll work for their needs.
Would you say that you have a love for audio engineering?
Yes.
What about working with people and being like the person who's running the session?
That part of it really took me a while, because I'm really kind of a introverted kind of person. So making people feel comfortable when they come in really wasn't a skill that I had at first. And it was because I was really shy, and sometimes shyness comes across as unfriendliness when it's not meant that way. So I had to work at being engaging, and because that's the thing about a studio session is you want to kind of keep a positive vibe. People can easily get frustrated because they're not getting the take they want. So you have to be kind of like, we can do this. Let's, you know, you don't want them to get too frustrated where they give up.
Yeah, you never want that.
So it took me a while to get better at that, and I still work at that. You know, I still try to think about how I handled certain situations and like what I can do better. And I watch other people like Karen. She's been an engineer since like 1975. She has so much experience, you know, working with groups. Watching how she works, I learned a lot about how to make the client feel comfortable and how to smooth over conflicts. Because sometimes you've got two band members conflicting about things. She's good about smoothing it over. So there's a lot of that you have to deal with.
Can you recall a moment where you had any regrets about your career or like the path you were going?
Let me time my shit real quick. In 2003, I got to do a record with ASG. They're a band from Wilmington, North Carolina, and they got signed to Volcom Records. And I had recorded them, you know, before they were signed. They're just a local band. And when they went with Volcom Records, Volcom paid for an album, and we did it out there at Audio Genesis in 2003. And, you know, I was honestly, you know, I guess I only started in 1999. I only had about 4 years of experience. You know, I did the best I could with that record. It really didn't come out as good as I'd hoped it would. I still had a lot to learn at that point, and I felt like I had my opportunity to do a big record with a record company, and for me, it felt like it was a failure. You know, you don't realize that, you know, failures are what make you get better at things. You know, you have to fail. At that age, I just felt like, man, I squandered my opportunity to to be a big success, as a studio engineer. But, I got another chance with the Medusa Stone record, and that one went a lot better. I don't know why. Maybe it was that failure that made me work harder the second time, but for some reason that one went a lot better. But funny thing is, those guys ASG guys are coming in Monday, and I haven't worked with them since 2005.
They're coming here to record?
Well, they got an album they started in LA, and they were getting close to being done, and some people got COVID, and they had to come home, and they just need to do some guitar tracks, some vocals. So they're going to come in here, and we're going to finish up some of the tracks for their new record. I thought in my mind that, they'd never want to come and work with me again. The guy they worked with in LA, the record he did for them, the one after the one I did sound really good. Yeah, I just wish that I could have done that. But at that point, I still had a lot to learn, and I still do. That's the one thing about this profession. It's like a musical instrument. You're never going to know it all. The more you learn about it, the more you realize you don't know. You realize how much more there is to know. It opens up. It's like, wow, you see the genius in it the more you know about it.
What keeps you inspired?
I don't know. It's not really hard. I mean, working on some good music, that's all it takes for me. Today, I was working on some of Marcus's stuff, and I've known Marcus since we were in high school, and he, I really enjoy working on his stuff, and Justin. As long as it's some stuff that I can relate to, I enjoy working on it. Not everything's inspiring. Sometimes I have to do some country stuff. It's not really my favorite. But,
Yeah.
When it sounds good, I still like that. If I take something that wasn't that great and they really dig it and it sounds good, then, I might not come back and listen to it in a few weeks.
Yeah.
But it's going to be nice to hear it sound good.
I mean, as long as the person that you're mixing for think it's their best work, I feel like that's like that's
Yeah.
what I feel like keeps me inspired when I make something for someone and they love it and they think it's like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Like no matter how I feel about it, as long as, they get what they want, I feel like that is something that keeps me inspired.
Yeah.
How has the internet kind of shifted your career?
I think like we were saying earlier, when I first started, everybody was making a CD.
Yeah.
There wasn't any streaming. Nobody had like music online at that point in 99.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of the end of the AOL days,
Yeah.
Web 1.0, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the Napster thing where everybody was taking MP3s,
Yeah.
you could
and
get
ripping them online.
Yeah. So eventually, you could get everything for free. The reasoning to come into the studio and spend a lot of money on a CD started kind of going down because everybody was getting everything for free.
Mm-hmm.
In 2011, I bought a bunch of CDs for Machine Gun, and I've still got just about all of them. I've actually started selling a few of them here lately, but yeah, it was like that's right at that point to where the Spotify's and the Amazon Music, all the streaming platforms started picking up. Where you buy records for what your turntable, but I mean, you don't. Other than that, you just stream, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
for
what
the most
everybody
part.
does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's definitely. I think it's definitely put a bit of a hindrance into like the music industry, but I think in some ways it has improved it. Like, what do you think?
The way that it has helped it is that record companies do not dictate what is popular culture anymore. They used to have an iron grip on what was popular. The last decade of that would probably be the early 2000s. But in the 90s, there was only so many songs out there. You had to listen to what they gave you. They would literally take a band, record their record, and shelf it so it wouldn't compete with another artist that was the same genre.
Wow.
They had that kind of like power to shut somebody down. If it was, you had band A's awesome, band B's awesome, but we want band A to do great. We're going to take band B, sign them, record their record, and put it on the shelf and let them rot. That's the kind of power that they had. They don't have that kind of power anymore. So now you can listen to both bands A and B, right? And all these other bands that even if they didn't have a big budget, they still can be on Spotify.
Yeah.
Everybody can be on Spotify. You couldn't really have a record that could get all over the world unless you were with a major label.
Yeah. Did you ever have a label try to sign you?
No. So when it comes to getting signed back then, you would need to go to some of these showcases that they would have, and your band would need to be able to have the songs, the look, and the budget to go do these showcases. And hopefully an A&R guy would see you and want to sign you. Not everybody can afford to do that. A lot of these groups, you think that their narrative is that they came from nothing and now they're huge. That's not usually not the case. There's usually some big money behind them. Not to say that they didn't work hard to get there, but they had some financial backing that other bands may not have.
So was a college education necessary for all of this?
No, it was not. There's some guys who did go to places like Full Sail, and then they got an internship in LA. Like some of those LA studios, if you wanted to get into get an internship out there, it was probably a good idea to do it. But a lot of these engineers I've studied, they just went out there and they started working at the studio. They started off sweeping the floors, cleaning the bathrooms, running for coffee. Eventually, they're like, "All right, so we're gonna get you to start erasing tape or making they make copies of the tape every night, right? So you'd have you'd have a reel of the songs, and you'd have you'd have two machines, and they'd have you make copies. And eventually, you would be an assistant, and then you take on some of the probably like the unsigned bands or something like that, the newer bands. You might get a chance to you work your way up.
Yeah.
But some of them would just start literally by sweeping the floor, cleaning the bathroom.
Yeah, like any position.
Yeah, paid minimum wage or whatever. But my thing was, I didn't really want to go to school. I just figured if you had the gear and you could start learning how to use it. My dad had a studio, learned a lot of stuff from my dad.
What would you tell someone that's new to the field, like something to look out for or something that you've experienced that you wish you knew when you were new to the field?
Well, I would say number one is get some gear, start recording, and don't beat yourself up if it sounds bad. It's okay for it to sound bad at first. Just remember it's a long game. It's weird. You think, well, I know how to hear. I can hear fine, right? Being able to hear frequency problems and and bottom end and everything, and hearing peaks, it just takes a little time to develop that and to know what to do about it. So just give yourself time and don't worry about the failures. Like I had a big failure, but I moved forward and just took it and learned from it. And there's been more after that. But you just keep going.
Yeah.
Just like with anything, I think.
If you could go back 20 years and do something differently, what would you do?
I think that situation that I had over there at Audio Genesis, I probably should have got out of that before I did.
Yeah.
I stayed somewhere in a studio too long. I would have been better off doing something else, working with some other people. I felt like this allegiance to the place. It's not about the facility, and it's not exactly all about the gear. It's about the people working there.
Yeah.
And if an environment gets toxic, then it's best to go ahead and go. Even as much as you love the place and the history you have there, if things are going bad, it's probably time to go.
What are some red flags to look for, like with people, like with that situation?
Well, if you're in a partnership with somebody and they're not being really transparent with you about the books, that's a red flag.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite moments from your entire career?
I mean, you always think about when you get to work with the famous people. back when Dawson's Creek was filming in Wilmington, I used to do pre-records for them for the there's so if characters on the show play music or sing, they have to do what's called pre-records because they don't they're not singing on camera.
set.
Yeah,
No.
that shit's pre-recorded.
Mm-hmm.
In a couple of the episodes, the girl Busy Phillips, like she's a blonde-headed girl, she's on that show. She did that. She's been on a few other shows. She was coming in to sing one of the songs, and so we're in there and we're working on the song. She was going to sing on this song, "Son of a Preacher Man." Anyway, we're working on the song. She walks into the control room and says, "Hi, I'm Busy," and Daryl turns around and looks at her and goes, "So are we." It's the funniest thing ever. He said it so dry, Oh my God. I always remember that.
Oh,
Like she's like, famous actress down there. But back then he didn't know who the hell she was.
Oh. Is there have you worked with any other famous people that have been just like a wow, like can't believe I'm working with this person right now?
Well, Andre 3000.
How was that experience?
So he first came in. It was strange because he was, I expected a rapper, but he walked in this real southern, like he had like a seersucker kind of shirt on. You know what that is? Like the Southerners wear.
Yeah, I think so.
In like a belt, like in like these, blue jeans. No, just strict bright blue jeans, belt buckle, kind of country looking.
Yeah.
Walked in kind of like a guy.
Not what you expected.
Yeah, lives in the country. Yeah, it was like, wow. And he was real nice. And I guess because the way I said hello to or sir or something, he was like, looked at me funny, like, all right, man, calm down. I was like, all right, yeah, I was like, yeah, I need to calm down. He was a really nice guy. And he was playing he played guitar a little then at that point because I think he was starting to play guitar on stage. So he was playing this old acoustic that I used to keep. Remember that beat up acoustic I had that had the wood worn off in one spot?
Yeah.
Right. I ended up giving that thing to Bland, but it was sitting around the studio and he was playing some chords. I said, what is that? Is that an Eagles song you're playing? He goes, no, it's Hey Ya. I was like, oh, that's your. You're playing your
song.
You're playing your big hit song right now, and I thought it was the Eagles. I'm sorry. I felt like an idiot. But it sounded. I mean, the chords. It sounded like he was playing the Eagles or something.
He probably thought that was funny.
Yeah. But when he wanted to record, when he got in the booth, and so the studio, there was like people from the movie there, the director, other people, movie people there, and just people, he kicked everybody out of the studio. They had to like leave the building. I had to shut off all the lights. And when I was recording him, the only thing I could see was my little monitor.
Huh.
He wanted pitch dark. No lights. It was strange. And he did his vocal takes, and he just, I guess it's a distractionary thing. He likes it. No, he doesn't want anybody in there, but just the engineer. No lights. Just sing. I guess it's a way he can focus on his singing.
Yeah. Was it just you and him in the building?
Yeah, he kicked everybody out of the building. He would have kicked me out if he could have hit record himself, which would have been fine.
Yeah.
But I had to hit record, so it was cool. I got to experience something that he probably makes everybody else leave to do. So I guess I didn't think about it that way. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was interesting was Macy Gray was in that movie with him, right? So she came to the studio.
Yeah.
And
she's in that picture.
Huh?
She's in that picture that you showed me.
She is?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think that's Macy Gray. I didn't get a picture of her at the studio.
Oh, okay.
She was kind of being a bitch. She had I don't know what was wrong with her, but she was not happy to be there.
Yeah.
So he gets her. She has to go in and she had to record some parts and replace another singer on some sessions that he had. The original track was there for her to know what notes to sing and the timing.
Mm-hmm.
And she just kind of starts doing it her own way. And it pissed him off. He got pissed at her. Like, I'm like watching Andre 3000 get pissed at Macy Gray right in front of me. Like, he's like, no, that's not how it goes. Because he wrote this stuff. So
Yeah.
he's taking offense to it because it's his song. And, you know, he doesn't want her rewriting his melody line.
Because this is his movie that he's doing.
Yeah, him and Big Boy and that director, this is their movie, but these are songs from his record, and he wrote the music, and he's like, what is she doing? That's not the right, you
Yeah.
know, and he's getting mad at her like because she won't sing it the right way, and she's just kind of like, I don't know, improvising or whatever, and it's just it was interesting to watch him get pissed at her.
Yeah. Yeah. It just wasn't working for him.
Yeah, you know, it's like when you put all that time writing a song, the melody line it counts.
Yeah.
Like you
Like
wrote
he
it
has
on
a
purpose.
clear
certain way.
vision for how he wants it to
Oh,
sound.
very, very.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Very particular.
he's a genius when it comes to that stuff. His beats are insane, you know.
Yeah.
And he does all that stuff himself. He would be done. He would sit down and start working on the session on Pro Tools. I was like, yeah, go sit right. You know, you just grab the
Yeah.
mouse and start working on it.
Huh.
Because he did these himself. So yeah, I don't know what happened, but it took a while to get. At some point, he was like, I give up. She's just gonna do it her own way. She's gonna do it the Macy Gray way. And I think he just kind of was like, I'm just gonna have to get through this session.
Yeah.
So
So I know earlier you talked about like, you know, when you have like conflicting people in a session, you have to kind of like bring the vibe up or like, you know, kind of cheer them up. Did you do any of that for them or did you just kind of let them?
it was a little intimidating for me at that point because like it's a lot more high pressure. And one thing about this job is you kind of got to know whether you're in that role or not. Sometimes what a lot of newbies will kind of put in their 2 cents when it really isn't their place, and they can get themselves kicked off as a session.
Yeah.
So if there's so when I work with a singer-songwriter, they come to me and they want me to be part of the process, the musical process, then I'll do it. But some sessions like that one, I'm strictly the engineer.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear my opinion on about a take. They don't want to hear my, ideas.
Yeah, you're there to hit record.
I'm there to make sure the shit works. I'm there to make sure that everybody's happy and that we've got a good recording. And if something goes wrong, I'll go fix it. But they don't want to hear my opinion. If they ask me my opinion, I can give it. But until then, I just keep my mouth shut and do my job. That's kind of really, it's not always that way, but you have to know what your role is.
Yeah. My last question would be, why should people care about your job or your field?
Well, I guess if you think about, there's been some people that do the stuff that I do that have made the difference. If you think about a record like Back in Black by AC/DC, there's so many good. There's the way that record sounds because of the engineer Mike Shipley and the producer Mutt Lang. Their contribution to the sonic quality of that record is just so immense, and so many other records they've done. Those two guys, they did Def Leppard, Shania Twain. Some of these records sound so good, it's insane. And then some of these artists work with another group, and the record sounds totally different. So there's so much. When you have a great engineer and a great mixer, it there's so much of that person in the sound of the music along with the artist. They call it like a black art. Engineering and mixing, especially mixing, is like a black art. I guess it's a little different when you're using mostly samples and stuff like that. But when you're recording like real instruments and mixing in and getting a certain production level, there's just a lot of expertise that goes into it.
Yeah,
that would be
all
shame
for-
if it got lost.
Yeah, and it seems like the better a mix is, like the less the average listener would notice it. If you take like a song and you're like, oh, I really like the melody, I really like the way the drums, like, you know, the rhythm, but I feel like the mix isn't like the first thing someone would notice. So it's kind of like it's that unsung hero of music.
It is, for sure. It is, because I mean, when people like of my generation think of like some of the big Def Leppard records, they sound so big, and you think it's the band. That band is so awesome. They're like rock monsters, but it's that record that props them up and makes them look larger than life.
Yeah, there's like a misconception, I feel like, in the public eye of like what really goes into a record.
Well, you know what's funny is, Tammy, Scott's wife, even though he was my partner, she thought that when she was watching a video, that's when they did that song.
Like a music video.
Like when she was watching, a music video, that's what I'm hearing. Like, seriously?
Yeah.
Like, some people don't know it. They think that like these guys, anytime you put them in a room with an amp and a guitar and a speaker, they sound just like the record. I mean, it's so not, that is like so not even close, right?
Yeah.
You know, if people heard what these guys really sounded like, if it was just the four of them playing together, 5 of them, they'd be like, what the hell?